So we have this posting in my university, the University of Ibadan, where the medical students, you live the normal, we have like the normal hospital setting with all the gadgets and gimmicks and all that, and then they take you to the rural, like to the villages, and then you're there for like 2 months, and then you carry out a research on the people that live in that community, and you're supposed to partake in um, child immunization, maternity health, and all that, like basic primary health care, basically. So it's the Barakwa posting. We call it Igbo. Like we have a local name for it. We call it Igora. Like we just call it Igora posting because of the Igora community, the village where the whole posting takes place. Igora is known for, it's like this community, they've been put on the Guinness Book of Records for being the community with the highest number of twinning population. So like almost every family in Igora, you can say that they have a twin, like a set of twins in that family. So we go to the Ibarakwa posting started in 1963, and it was a collaboration, and this is just information. I can always give the slides to that. So yeah. So what we do in Igbora, we go to clinics, like rural clinics, where you see how doctors get to do like basic stuff. We don't really have a lot of equipment, so there's a lot of improvising that happens in those clinics. So you see people doing things with, I'll hire some pictures here. There's this really amazing clinic in Igbora and then we do house inspections. We go to bakeries too, like sanitation, how they bake things for like in villages, because you would expect that, some of these places, so that they don't always have to come back to the hospital, because these people have there's one really bad bakery we went to, but the picture I got for the bakery, this is like the oven where they make all the bread for the people in that village, and like this is the really good one in that place, but they're like worse ones and all that. So before that, like we do school visits, market visits. Like when we go to the schools, we did a deworming exercise where we just gave like mebendazole to the students, to all the students that hadn't been dewormed. So this is us. Yeah, I'm like getting the statistics. So that's why I was able to take the picture from that angle, and like I was standing behind them. I had some other ones where Zainab and I and Kenya and I, we were all there. So it was really interesting checking out the children, how really getting involved with them. Then after that, we go to like where they keep the water. We call it Aruba Water Works. So it's like the water that serves that community. So we check out how they maintain and how they get clean water in that community, and how it's being. So we just do basic inspection, sanitation, and then we give reports back. We also go to the abattoir, though. That's the really nasty place actually, because it's just like this huge slaughter slab and all that. So I don't have pictures for that. I don't know if Kenny or Zainab has any for that, because even for us it was like, whoa. This is too much. I can just put the cows on the floor and like bam, bam, and blood and intestine everywhere, and it's really, it's a sight. You should come.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, so this is our visit. I don't have this, like a silo behind me. The little, I don't know, is that a kusur? The little huts where they keep farm produce. The village health workers, they are like a new set of people that they just keep in these villages to like give drugs, like basic drug like paracetamol, ORS, oral rehydration for diarrhea and all that. So there's this really old man, and he spoke in their local dialect, and they even had to like translate back to us, because many of us, it's a university where we have like different people from different tribes of the country, so you had to translate back to English for most of us that weren't speaking the language Yoruba or the dialect that the man was speaking in. It was really interesting, and we went to the well, we inspected the well where they got the water for their farmland and all that, and it's really nice. So like this was the research that my group did on the people in Igbora. So it was on quality of life and social support of the elderly in Igbora, and that's school property. But I'll tell you about it. What we found out. Ekene and I are in the same group, and it was really interesting that though the people in Igbora had like they didn't really have they had access to basic health, but many of them were not making use of it. They preferred like what you call local shaman for people for remedies and all that. But they were living fine, like good quality of life, and it was really interesting that they didn't like they weren't waiting on government to do stuff for them. They were very self-sufficient, many of them, and I met like this really old like we had we because the research we undertake, the money for research we usually the students donate it, so it's like let's say okay 5,000 is like how many like $25 or so, something like that. And so we contribute it to like get our questionnaires, get all the material, and then we sometimes give souvenirs because these people, if you're going to ask them a bunch of questions, they expect something. Even so, and many of them wanted drugs, and we had to explain to them that no, you don't just give drugs, we don't just come to ask you questions and then we give you drugs, because some of them might actually harm you more than they do good, like paracetamol, for instance. We don't want to give you an overload of paracetamol because many of them are farmers, so they're always complaining of back aches and side aches and all that. So we had to explain it all to them, and then we probably just get little souvenirs. Some like Zainab's group worked on tinea capitis and tinea anywhere, so they were giving the children pencils and erasers and books and all that. In my group, we were, because it was really hot when we started, so we bought fans, like hand fans, so they could just blow themselves. But it was really fun interacting. I met these really old people, but in some instances we had to give money because they were like, some really old people, when they didn't, those ones, like the outliers, many of them had social support, but there were some outliers that maybe they didn't have family. They were just two, like a man and a woman in the house, really old, nobody comes to check up on them, so we had to like give them money for food or something like that. It was really nice. So I'm going to talk about the Awojobi Clinic, Eruwa. It's a private clinic and something like Jules Clinic, but it's a really nice clinic. It's a Nigerian version of Jules Clinic. They don't get paid in eggs and goats though, but they do free. No, they do. Yeah, I think okay. So we met the son. Awojobi is the name of the man that started the clinic, but he's dead now, unfortunately. I think at the middle last year. So this is Dr. Awojobi. He's a really nice man, and what he's doing in that community is so great. Like he's gotten recommendation. That's his wife. He used to run the surgical aspect of the hospital, do all the operations and all that. And the wife was in charge of the radiological aspect, like all the imaging and labs. So like this for him is his museum. Like he is a doctor, but he's also an engineer. So what he does is like he tries to make these gadgets, like this medical equipment, from basic stuff like junk, what people call junk. So I'll show you more pictures ahead, but like it's really great. And what its essence is that I sent you a link. I don't know if you have the link, so you could play it at the end. So it's a message from him, but it's something record. I got it online, but he's dead now, so you can't really get a message from him directly. So this is Dr. Awojobi's operating room, and this place is basically just functional. It's nothing fancy. He made that by himself. It's a construct. The operating table, it's something that you have to jack up. Like it's not press a button and then it goes ooh, no. So if you're a really tall surgeon, you have to like jack it up, and if you're short, you have to jack it down and all that. And he made that himself from scratch, from all the scraps and all. And the prices are ridiculously cheap in that area, even because people there are like farmers. They don't have much to give. So he tries to make his things reusable as much as possible. Stuff he doesn't have to buy and all that. and it's really great. Like when we were there, we actually watched CS. His son did a cesarean section right there. They use ketamine always. They don't use no fancy. So like the woman was, but there they're more about functionality. Nobody's bothered about aesthetics. So they did the straight up cut, no fancies, no down. So it's just a straight transverse cut. Okay, so this is how they autoclave, how they like heat up and recycle most of the stuff they use in the clinic, because it's all about being functional and saving costs, because he doesn't want the people to pay anything if they don't have to. So this is the autoclave. Like he made this also by himself. So they use heat from corn cobs. I don't know. So this is what fuels the whole place, because Eruwa clinic, they don't really have electricity. Even while we were in Igbora, it was kind of hard on us because we're coming from the university, and we get, even as bad as it is in our university, we still get like 22 to 24 hours of electricity, which is like, it's great. It's like we are the big guys. So, but here they don't have. We had only like 2 hours of electricity in Igbora in our hostel, the student hostel, while there. So he finds ways to just, fuel his whole place. So it's like solar. You have solar panels everywhere, and that's because he has an engineer's son. They made that too. So the corn cobs, like they use the corn cobs to fuel the heat that, like, somebody has to fan that, like fanning it to make the autoclave, like get the heat, and then they use the steam from that to sterilize all their equipment. They make their own normal saline. That's normal saline. Like he makes that by himself, and they still do that. So what they do is all these bottles they get, all this bottle is recycles, all of them locally. Anyways, it's not the usual fancy recycle, so they have to make a way to recycle all of it. And then this is like a test, a urine test. This thing there, it's a test, and so they just put the urine there, and they just like make the reagents and try to get that's the people making the normal saline. Okay, in conclusion, it was like a really grounding experience for many of us, because it's not like in Nigeria we have we have modern hospitals. It's like the cities have modern hospitals, the really expensive hospitals and all that, and with all the equipment and all that. But it was really grounding for some of us who had never been to a part of Nigeria like that, getting to see that clinic, see the whole environment, meet the people, interact with them, and it was really fun. It was educative. For me, it's something like they run this 1-year program now that if you are interested, you just come and learn surgical skills for a year, because after medical education, most times you realize that many of us are not that fully baked. So so many of us try to hustle for where we can get placement to hands-on. So I was thinking I would go back to a Joby clinic and just maybe do a year if I have the time, or not, or maybe a month. Anyone is fine. As long as and it was fun. It's really nice. I don't know. I wish I could just go on and on and on. Joby clinic.
You want me to try to pull up the...
Yeah. So this is Zainab and I. We did rock climbing anyway. It's this really big hill, and there was a point where I'm really scared of heights. No, I'm not scared of heights. I'm scared of falling. And and there was a part where I just stood and I was crying like a baby, and she had to come help me down. So this is also on the farmland, and this is me and Zainab going out to distribute questionnaires and that. So that's about it.
Do you guys have questions?
Yeah, take some questions while I do this.
Faith, what's your question?
So you mentioned that that this clinic is one of the nicer clinics.
No, it's not. It's the base. It's not one of the. It's like the extreme end of the clinics, but it's a private clinic, and what they do there is they help They are just trying to help the rural people in that community. It's private, it's not government funded, it's not anything. It's just a family deciding to do that work in that community. I don't even think they are from Erua. Are they? It's not. They are not from Erua. They are not from that place. The man just dedicated his life to serving that community.
How is it being sustained now?
Well, he has two sons. One is a doctor and one is an engineer. So the doctor was the one we actually met that actually did the CS that day that we saw it, and he's doing a great job. Though they are trying to leave some of the old stuff. The man is set in his ways. Like when he was alive, there were many things he wouldn't allow. If it's not cheap, he won't buy it. If he doesn't have to buy it, he won't buy it because he knows people won't be able to afford it. So he did his histology, making his slides and all that. He did these wooden things, like little wooden blocks, and he would reuse them, if he didn't have to. But now the son buys this plastic stuff that is reusable, not reusable, but disposable. And then maybe some things are getting a bit more expensive, but it still remains, the functionality still remains, yes.
And how common are clinics like this where they're privately owned and small, and those who are of the village?
Well, it's hard for people to it's a sacrifice. For you to live like a great practice in the city and then decide that I'm going to go live in one place where nobody, transportation even there is difficult. So it took a lot, and stuff like this should really be appreciated.
I have one more question.
Well,
It seems like the medical students have more of a role in their community where you're checking the waterworks too.
yes.
How are you trained to notice what's going on if there is some type of desanitation? What is
We have lectures before we go, like an orientation, so they tell us what we are to expect, what we are to see, we don't know what we are going to see, but they tell us what should be. So we have that in the back of our mind, so we are able to. And then there's usually a feedback session where we call the people in the community and they come to a town hall, and then with our research, we act dramas because many of them don't, English and all that, so communication barrier. So we act out what we learned from our research. So each group, you come and act a drama that they can understand, and then you try to speak it in their, we learn the language and we act it out there. Can I have something to add?
We also go with resident doctors. So it's not just us. We go with people that
Supervisors, they supervise us.
Do you think the
Do you say no?
Do you think the training is sufficient enough where you can see yourself doing something like Dr.
Owojobi.
Do you think the training is good enough for you to see yourself doing that since you are learning how to check for waterworks?
Yeah, you still have to do more. There's more to be done. I don't.
Yeah, most of the people that end up coming to that place, coming to work with Dr. Owojobi, they do a residency program in public health. So after that, they come back. So they do public health. Some of them have some courses in family medicine. So they're part of our public health residency, you go to a clinic for about a year for family medicine. You go somewhere for obstetrics, gynecology. They rotate a lot of units. So they're kind of general practitioners and also public health inspectors. So those are the people that are more likely to start up something like Professor Owojobi. Not if you're a general surgeon, for instance, you still have to do some courses in public health. Maybe you do a master's in public health or something, so that you can get it.
So how efficient is primary care in that area, since most of the residents are also interested in going to a shaman and going to see herbalists and things like that? The primary care in these areas, do you think the people that live there would go see that doctor versus going to see the shaman? How efficient is that? I think surgery would be something like that.
Because of the fact that this program has been on for a very, very long time, people in that area are now well sensitized. They're more interested now in coming to the hospital. Previously, they won't come to the hospital, but because we now have community health extension workers, people that used to live in that village with them, people that live that life with them, but are now trained medically. They're not doctors, but they're trained to, okay, diagnose this. If you have a problem, you see your neighbor vomiting and the person is stooling, this is what you should do. So because of that person lives with them, and the fact that we keep going, not just us, every year, about every 3 months, every 4 months, there are always students there. So when you go to distribute your questionnaires and all that, you talk to them, you explain stuff. You don't just drop it and walk away. You explain, okay, we're medical students, it's better for you to go to the doctor than do this, because they'll bring their babies to you. Look, my child has this, it has this, what can I do, and all that. And so that's the opportunity for you to tell them, okay, rather than giving this person consumption, rather than rubbing toothpaste on the child's face because it has ringworm or something, take the person to the hospital. Like my group, for instance, they put vegetables on the head if the child has tinea infection and all that. So I had to tell them, okay, fine, I know that you've been doing that for a very long time, but maybe.
Can you hear the microphone? Is it working? Keep talking, just keep talking.
Okay, so I know you've been doing that for a very long time. You put toothpaste and all that, but maybe just try it. You're going to meet me there when you come. You're going to have a very nice time. The doctors are friendly. You don't have to pay much. Pay about 200 naira, and you don't have to pay it every time you go. 200 naira is less than $1, so you don't have to pay it every time you come. Just come around and all that. And they're actually very warm. They're willing to do that kind of stuff. So despite the fact that they have their traditional medicine, they're also interested. They realize, okay, we can do both. Okay, you know what? Come to the hospital. While you're in the hospital, you can pray, you can do all that. God will help you, but just come and just imagine if you get well, it's God and the drugs, so everything's okay.
Okay.
Okay, that was great.
Okay. So you can just listen to the story.
Anybody else now that we have it working?
No, we should move this and then get
Sorry, man. I'm such a
Modern technology has improved many aspects of life in Africa, but sometimes it makes sense to keep things low-tech. Consider impoverished hospitals. Expensive machines that are donated or purchased often break down because there's no money and no ability to maintain the gear. Reporter Rowan Moore Garrity was in a rural part of Nigeria recently, and he met a surgeon who's found a clever way around those problems.
Did it get undone?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I do not know this equipment. It's just ridiculous. I was trying to microphone.
Mothers recline with their babies on worn, well-used beds. The hospital isn't fancy. In a small farming town a few hours' drive from the city of Lagos, goats graze right outside the entrance of a low concrete building. It's the main hospital in Arua, Nigeria. Inside, in the maternity ward, mothers recline with their babies on worn, well-used beds. The hospital isn't fancy, but then it's not meant to be.
For me, it doesn't matter what it looks like, as long as it's functional.
Dr. Oloyombo Awojobi founded this hospital 27 years ago, and that pretty much sums up his philosophy. He's all about what works. What keeps the hospital running and growing are cheap, simple devices he designs and makes himself.
I'm using materials readily available in my backyard.
He shows me the clinic's operating table. You raise and lower it not with electronic controls, but with a jack, like the one you'd use to change a car tire. Then,
Can I stop it? Oh, I did. I'm sorry. Okay. I just.
Well, this is great. I think I'd rather interact with you than the computer. Talk about dealing with the underserved people. But what I think is so fascinating about this story is that it's that idea of if we instantly try to give everyone identical health care, identical access, we can't do it because the resources aren't there. And this physician's philosophy of it is that I'm going to work with what I have. And eventually, I mean, that's how you, from the grassroots up, and people won't get the same quality of care that they would at George Washington University, but they will get so much more than what they would get if we tried to say, you can't do any of it until we can give you George Washington University, right? And I think that's what a message is that we completely forget in the United States. So just like when we had, are asking you guys to look at Poverty Inc., the idea is that we have learned a lot about how to increase prosperity throughout the world. We've forgotten those lessons in the United States, and we're trying to do so many shortcuts that we're actually going to make it harder in the long run. And so starting with what you have and just making that work and helping that community, using the community workers that you were describing, and that whole tiered spectrum of who can assist and what is help and how do we involve with people is really looking at the resources you have and building from there, and having that be okay. And having that be okay. It doesn't have to be George Washington University instantly everywhere across the world, even across the United States. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you.